I wasn't sure I'd be here this week. I obviously am here. I'm going to have to leave a little early because it's a long story, but I may have to leave a little early. My wife had to go visit somebody, not well, in New York, and we have guests coming in, flying in from Israel today. But I want to talk a little bit about the Parsha first, and to segue that into a little bit of the Yom Tov Shavuos as well. So we start the next Sefer Bamidbar, and there's two parts of Sefer Bamidbar. The Torah, it starts Sefer Bamidbar with the counting of Bnei Yisrael. As we go to the desert, the Torah counts Bnei Yisrael. It goes to the Shvatim. It starts with Ruvain, all right? It goes to all the Shvatim, and then it goes to the Shvatim of, it goes through the Shvatim, the children of Yosef, right? Instead of counting Yosef as one, it counts both Menashe and Ephraim, because Levi gets counted separately. So you have Menashe and Ephraim, instead of Levi and Yosef, you have that 12 that way. Okay. Who's the older one, Menashe or Ephraim? Who's older?
Menashe.
Menashe, we agree? Yeah? Okay, the Menashe is older. Okay, I want to make sure we have consensus over here. Bipartisan support for the fact that Menashe is older. Fine, excellent. Okay, Menashe is older. So we would expect, when counting the Bnei Yisrael and list the different names, that who should be mentioned first? Menashe. Right? He's older. And yet the Torah, when it counts the Shvatim, and it goes to the names of, and the amount of people from each Shevet, it mentions Ephraim first. Question. The Torah seems to correct itself, if you will, at the end, when right before Bnei Yisrael are entering into Eretz Yisrael, the Torah counts the Jews one more time, and when it counts the Jews, there it does mention Menashe before Ephraim, as should be the case. So there are two questions, obviously. Question number one is why the reverse order over here, and if whatever his reverse order was over here, why is it, why is the Torah then change it again later on? So the essential idea is the following: that the Bnei Yisrael were leaving Mitzrayim after exposure to a corrupt culture for over 200 years. There's a lot that they had to undo, so to speak. A lot they had to learn. It required an immersion. The Midbar was nothing less than a full immersion experience, right? They weren't involved in commerce, right? Everything was provided for them: their food, their water, their clothing. They were protected with their Naniya Kavod, right? And they would focus on Torah study. They were totally focused immersionists in Torah study. When we talk about Menashe and Ephraim, which one of the Shvatim, which one of the two, was the one that represents immersion in Torah, and which one represents the son that was much more integrated into society? Anybody know?
Yeah, Ephraim was the one who was greater in the eyes of Yaakov.
Okay,
so
good.
I would think he was the one more into
Torah. Good. What else? Excellent point. What else? Is there anything else? Anybody know anything about Menashe's job? What was Menashe? When he
was the interpreter.
He was an interpreter. He was well versed with other languages. He interfaced with other countries. He clearly was one that was more integrated in society. So you have the Ephraim model and the Menashe model. Going into the Midbar, the model that was primary was Ephraim. The Jews had to focus totally on immersion. So Ephraim is mentioned before Menashe, because of this short time period of 40 years, Klal Yisrael was expected to follow the lead of Ephraim mostly and be totally involved in the Torah study. Because they had to really undo everything, relearn or learn everything, and get themselves started and situated. Then, when they were about to enter Eretz Yisrael, there's a new shift. No longer living in a Midbar. There's not going to be any mun falling from the sky. Right? Now they have to provide for themselves. They have to get involved in society. They have to cultivate the land. They have to get involved with commerce. And now, for the most part, they're going to live as Jews in the integrated society. And that's where they're obligated to actually connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu while they're integrating society. And so Menashe is mentioned before Ephraim, because for the most of the Jews and most of the Jewish population, the Menashe model is going to be the one they're all going to have to follow. So you have the Ephraim model that's primary when they enter the Midbar. That was a very special time where they had to experience an immersion. And now when they're going into Eretz Yisrael, now their role is not to immerse totally, but rather be an integrated society and know how to really function as a Jew and elevate everything around them in that way. And that was the Menashe model that comes first. Of course, the Ephraim model still exists. The Rambam says, wrote this 500 years ago, that what Shevet Levi used to be, which is that immersion model, right? Shevet Levi wasn't involved in commerce. Shevet Levi didn't hold down jobs. Shevet Levi was involved in the Beis Mikdash all the time. Today, the Rambam says you have a group of Talmid Chachamim that their role is to play the role of Shevet Levi. So we need that role of people that experience total immersion and they're living total immersion, because you need that from our Torah leaders. But for the most society, the Eibush, the Torah expects us to be fully engaged in this world and feel connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and elevate the world around us with the model of the Menashe model. So the Ephraim model was important for all of us entering in the Midbar. The Menashe model was primary for most of us while we're leaving the Midbar going into Eretz Yisrael. I might add that in every person's life, we go through different kufos, different cycles. And for the most part, we're integrated into society, and we have to really function as a Jew in society. But it also is important to once in a while to pull back and to experience an immersion process, whether it's going to Yeshiva for Eretz Yisrael, which is a perfect immersion process, or Shabbos itself could be an immersion process. But even in our own lives, we should really come once in a while say, you know what, I need to get a week to just experience totally an immersion process. You know, a mikveh, if you dunk something to a mikveh, and even one hair is sticking out, it doesn't work, right? There's something to be said about a total immersion that has a different impact than 99.99%. That's clear. So in our own lives, we have to find times, and maybe it's the 2 hours a day that we're totally immersed in Torah. But there has to be a time. I just spoke to somebody a few days ago who was in Eretz Yisrael, and he spoke to one of the big Talmidei Chachamim. And this Talmidei Chacham gives shiurim to 500-600 people at a shot, you know, on a daily basis. And he asked him, like, how do you stay focused in your learning? How do you stay focused? And he said, you know what? The first thing I do is I make sure I don't have my phone with me. He said, like, he was a big guy who was 70 years old. He said, once you have your phone with you, you're always looking, did I get a message? Didn't get a message. You're not experiencing immersion if you're doing that. Put away the phone for 2 hours, or an hour, whatever the time is that you're learning, experience that total shakua, total sunk into your learning. It's fortunate if you can do it for a year. It's fortunate if you can do it a month. It's fortunate, you know, there were people that took off the entire month of Elul. I know somebody used to leave his job every Elul for a month. He was able to do that, his private person. And he learned for a whole month immersion. If you can do it for Shabbos, great. If you can do it for an hour, but at least experience immersion then. Put away the phone, nothing else. Be in it, totally, fully in it. We live in a society that everyone's got ADHD. It's contagious. We can't stay focused more than 30 seconds. But the idea of, and we lose out on that immersion experience. But that's the olive base of really succeeding. Of course, we have to integrate society as well, and that's for the rest of the time that we, you know. But we need the immersion experience so that we can effectively integrate society. Without the immersion experience, without immersion, you know, dynamic, you won't have that impact or be able to function as well as you should when you're integrating. It's also interesting that we mentioned, you know, with Jews traveling in the desert, they're forever today complaining, right? Now, they saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was taking care of them, right? They're worried about this, where's the water, where's the food, where's this? Why are they panicking all the time? They saw Hashem really had their back, right? Mitzrayim took care of them, Kriyas Yamsuf. Why are they constantly complaining, whining, concerned, anxious? What's it compared to? A guy gets a job, all right? And it's his first job in this new company, and he's quite nervous. There's a lot of people, you know, jockeying for success and, you know, climbing up that corporate ladder. And he's really nervous. And somebody comes over to him, slaps on the back, says, by the way, that, you know, I know your father, and I'm number 2 man to the CEO. Anytime you have a problem, let me know, and I'll tell the CEO without a problem. I said, that's great. Have somebody really care for me, and I go straight to the CEO. That's terrific. The third day in the job, he has a little complaint that there's another employee that's not so nice to him. He says, I can't go to the CEO with that. That's crazy, right? Got a complaint to the guy's not, right? And a few weeks later, another small little problem. Like he doesn't feel he can't go to the CEO to deal with that. It's ridiculous. So he's back to square one. He doesn't really feel that he has the option of really having any help. In a certain sense, that's what happened to Bnei Yisrael also. Of course, they saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a big CEO, and he took care of them. But they couldn't imagine for every one of their trivial problems they could bother the CEO with that. He's too busy to deal with their problems. They felt a little frustrated in their anxieties. Who they going to address their problems to? They didn't realize and they didn't understand, they didn't appreciate that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in their ordinary lives. They imagined HaKadosh Baruch Hu involved in the extraordinary. They didn't recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets involved in the ordinary. And I think I mentioned last week, I think I mentioned this last week, when Hashem offered the Torah to the non-Jewish world, they all said no for various reasons. They had regret later on. They said, Tnu lanu marosh. Give it us one more time. Let's do a do-over. Give it us again. This time we'll get it right. Now it's interesting. They don't say Tnu lanu od. Give it to us again. They say Tnu lanu meirosh. Meirosh is very strange. I mean, from the beginning. What was going on was that what they said was, God, when you offered the Torah to us, we asked what to say. We said, "Lo signo, don't murder, don't steal, don't kidnap, lo sirsa, don't kill." They said, "What? That's what you're talking about? That's when you're telling us you're going to give us a Torah." We expected like the most mystical ideas, the deepest concepts. Explain to us why bad things happen to good people. Explain to us how do you justify, free will versus predetermination. All the mysteries of the world, Kabbalah. That's when you're going to give revelation. Like Sirtzach, they were so disappointed. That's what it's all about. We can do that without. We need the holy Torah for that. Tzulana may rosh. Next time, offer us from the beginning of the Aseret Dibros. Anoich Hashem Elokecha. All those lofty ideas. If you offer that to us, they'll buy into. But the ordinary stuff, like Sirtzach, like Signov, that doesn't excite us. And they missed the point. How often you go to a class, and you hear a very deep class, and it's really profound, and it's inspiring, and you love it. And then 3 days later you try to repeat it, and you can't, right? What does it mean? That means as much as you heard it, you really can't wrap your head around it, or hands around it fully, because it's not meant to. It's really beyond us. So you can hear it for a moment, but it's fleeting. It's not something you really can conquer. What you can conquer, and what we're supposed to conquer, is in the ordinary life. The Lo Sirtzach and Lo Signals, how to live our lives in this world. That's what Archiv, and that's what Torah comes in. That's what they didn't appreciate. To be able to discover the extraordinary in the ordinary, that's what they didn't chab, the Torah is offering us. That's point number 1 in the Parsha. Point number 2 in the Parsha, and this will segue into a little bit of Shavuos, and that is, we know that the Torah tells us, in the second year of the Jews traveling in the desert, the Jews were offered the Golim. Remember the Golim are? Remember what the Golim are? Flags, right? Remember that when the Jews travel in the desert, so they travel, in a square formation, 3 shvatim on 4 sides, a total of 12, and each one was given a degel, and that degel was a banner, and it kind of represented the symbol of that tribe with an animal that represented it, and whatever the case is. Okay. What's fascinating is the Torah makes very clear that the Golim were only given the second year the Jews traveled in the desert, not the first year the Jews traveled in the desert. And the question is why? Why were the Golim given the first year? In fact, as Midrash must seem to imply that Bnei Yisrael made that request, and Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, rejected it the first year. The second year they complied. The question is why? Why the rejection the first year, and the second year is an allowance made for it? What is a degel? A degel really highlights the individuality of that tribe, the particular personality, the uniqueness of that tribe. And every tribe has a certain unique character, right? That is represented by that flag. Moshe Rabbeinu said, no. To highlight your uniqueness and your individual uniqueness is a threat to the commonality and the harmony of the Jewish people. If each one's going to flaunt and accent their uniqueness and how they're different than other Shvatim, what's the chance of having this sense of unity? Not a good idea. Each flag representing itself. But the second year something changed. The second year, the Mishkan was erected, and the Torah was placed smack in the middle. And when the Jews traveled in that formation, Levi was in the middle, with the Aron Kodesh, with the Mishkan. Now we're talking about something else. Why? Because kind of like the spokes of a wheel, that they all go spread out in different directions. There's a center circle, so to speak, where they all come from. Once there's a Torah that's the center of all their lives, that they all have this common value, common goals that the Torah represents. Once they have that in the center of their traveling, and that becomes the glue that connects them together, then of course there's room to access or to accent your individuality. Of course, every shevet contributes something to Klal Yisrael that another Shevet can't. And the Torah wants each one of us to be individual. The Torah wants Shvatim to be individualistic, but not at the threat of the unity of Klal Yisrael. But once you have a Torah that unifies, it's kind of like you have 5 people that play different musical instruments. He plays the trombone, the clarinet, the violin, the whatever, percussion. And he said, okay, play. 5 guys play different things. It's noise. It's a nightmare. But if you give them all the same sheet of music, now you got harmony. Once they have Torah, in the center of the Mishkan, they're all reading off the same sheet of music. Now you have harmony with the individual Shvatim. You don't have a cacophony of noise, you have harmony. So it's only once there's that central Torah that you can actually branch out and still have unity while still having individuality. In a marriage, people are quite different. And the husband and wife are not the same instrument. And they play different music. But when you have a Torah in your life, that becomes the page of music that they're both reading off of. Now you can have harmony. But without that as the glue, their individuality is a threat. The marriage can't succeed if they don't have the common goal centered to both of them, which is a Torah. Segueing into Shavuos, great Amar once said, Amar Yasi once said, Ilulai hayayla, if it wouldn't be for this day, assuming it means Shavuos, Kama Yosef Ika Beshuka, how many Yosefs will be in the street? Notice he's remarking that, you know what? If it wouldn't be for the Torah, I'd be like any other Yosef. I'd be like any other Joe. Ilula Hayoma, without this day of Shavuos, I'd be like any other Yosef in the street. That's the simple, common understanding, and it's true. And by the way, it's kind of a frightening thought. Ask yourself, who would you be today if you didn't have Torah? What would your life look like? What would you look like? Who would you be? Would you have the same midos, the same aspiration? You'd be a totally different person without Torah, probably. And I think not a better person, right? Just the opposite, all right? So the bottom line is that Yosef, this Rabbi Yosef was remarking, without the day of Shavuos, I'd be like any other Yosef, any other Joe in the street. That's a common understanding. For Rodim Zatzal, I believe was him, he had a different explanation. He said, Lula Hayama Kama Yosef Ika Beshuka doesn't mean I'd be like any one of these other Yosefs. He's saying, I myself am many Yosefs. Meaning I have many different interests, have different moods, have different ideas, have different kochos. If it wouldn't be the day of Shavuos, I'd be scattered all over the place. I wouldn't have a center core. I would be Kama Yosef Beshuka. I'd be many Yosefs. Today I'd be in this mood, today I'm in this, that mood. Today I think this is important, tomorrow I think that was important. If it wouldn't be for the Torah that is able to unify all my kochos, I feel I'm being pulled in different, I'd be Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, just simple, your neshama and your guf. Your neshama and your guf are two, right? You're Jekyll and Hyde if your neshama speaks one day and your guf speaks another day. But Torah is supposed to co-join them together. So you don't feel like you're literally two different split personalities. But rather, the Torah is able to make oneness out of both those personalities. That's the idea behind the Torah in the center when they travel. Now the different personalities can come together and one. And just like an individual too. We have different kochos in our lives, but they pull us in so many different directions. But if you have Torah, it takes all those kochos and channels them all in the same way. So you don't feel diffused. You don't feel like you're going in different directions, but you're going in one direction. That's one important point about Torah. On a different level, often people, when they first learn about Torah, I don't know, that's a lot of restrictions. That's a lot of restrictions, Rabbi. And it's true. It depends how you understand the word restriction. We all automatically assume restriction is a bad thing. Nobody wants to be restrained, right? That's human nature. Restriction is bad. We don't want, right? It's human nature, right? I always say, if you're walking down, it happens to me all the time, walking down the street, and there's a sign on the wall that says, don't touch wet paint, the first thing I want to do is, right? Because if I see the word don't touch, nobody tells me what to do, right? I don't want to be restrained. When it says keep off the grass, also have this urge to walk on that grass. Doesn't make any sense, right? But that's human nature. When you're told you can't do, you're restrained, I'll show you, right? Adam Rishon. Enjoy every fruit of the garden. Don't have this one fruit, boom, right? Makes a beeline straight to that one fruit. Okay, that's human nature. So we don't like restraint. But the truth of the matter is, there's another way of looking at restraint. A laser light is a super strong light. Why? Because all the light is focused. Right? It doesn't get scattered. Light gets scattered all over the place, so it becomes soft and weak. But a laser is able to keep that light totally centered without scattering. In our own lives as well, if we scatter ourselves all over the place and we don't restrain ourselves, we're really weak. The Torah says, I'm going to try to teach you how to be focused. If you're all over, if you're Kama Yosef Ika Beshuka, if you're all over the place, you're different yokes all over, you're like this light that's diffused. Torah gets you to be a razor beam, like a laser beam, because you're not here, you're making sure that you're not diffusing yourself as many people are. They're running after this, I'm running after this, I'm running after this, and they're all over, so they diffuse their energy rather than being able to focus their energy. Focused energy is powerful. Focused energy is a laser. Diffused energy is a weak light. Restraint isn't a bad thing necessarily. The flip side of it, restraint allows you to be focused, and that gives you strength. So that's kind of the flip side of it. In fact, when we mentioned that Hashem offered the Torah to other nations of the world, they all rejected it, right? Esav, Mike Sibbe, what does it say? Lo Sirtzach, no, don't tell me what I can't kill, sorry. Ishmael, like Signa, we went through this many times. It means that each one of them had a certain weakness or a certain desire, and they don't want anybody restraining that desire, right? Don't tell me what I can't kill, don't tell me what I can't steal from, right? So first of all, it seems like Kadosh Baruch Hu pulled a fast one on them. He knew exactly their weakness, and he told them exactly the one thing that they couldn't manage to control. Oh, seriously? Oh, no, anything else. Don't tell me what to get, right? It's like Hashem set them up for failure, right? Hashem knew the one thing that Esau, no, I already was told by my father, you live by the sword, don't tell me not, right? So Hashem Dafka told them the one thing that they would have a problem controlling, right? Doesn't seem right? No. That's goof what the Torah is all about. The Torah says, know your weakness, and the Torah is going to teach you how to overcome that weakness. Esau, if your weakness is lo sirtzach, you need the Torah to overcome lo sirtzach. If you, Yishmael, your weakness is lo sirtzach, you need the Torah specifically to overcome. I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you. That's exactly the area that you need ticking in. That's the area that you need repairing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So now the question the customer everyone's asked is, but if there has to be a parallel. Hashem offered the Torah to other nations of the world, and they all said no because of their weakness. What was the weakness that the Jews had, but they, for some reason they overcame it anyway and said, we'll take the Torah? There has to be a parallel. If every nation had a particular built-in weakness, if you will, what was the one weakness the Jews had that had to be somehow, they were willing to overcome? Interesting question, yeah.
Is it needing to know before making the decision?
Maybe, could be.
Avodah Zarah, maybe?
Avodah Zarah? We'll develop that a little bit.
Not complaining.
Complaining?
Not complaining.
Oh, not complaining. Okay, yeah, we can do some good whining. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Stiff neck.
Huh? Stiff neck. Okay, we're getting close. Good.
Which point do you say that Israel accepted? Was that in Parsha Yitro or Parsha Mishpatim?
Actually, it's Ein Mukta Ma'ucher. Means that there's no the order of the Torah is not historical. So we're talking when they said Nasiv Nishma. When they said Nasiv Nishma, you're right. It says Nasiv Nishma in Mishpatim, but that really took place in Matan Torah and Yisrael.
Okay, so you'd say that, but that is the phrase.
Yes, Nasiv.
Yes,
Yes,
that's the phrase.
yes. Fair question.
And that's why I answered what I did.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Trust in Hashem.
Trust in Hashem. So what's the weakness? Not trusting Hashem. Okay. So I'm not saying any wrong answers. I think, but the Kotzker had an interesting thing. The Kotzker, the Jews are incredibly passionate people. They're driven and they're passionate. But they have to know how to restrain that when it's not the right passion. Look around today. I don't want to say, we have Jews, that are on the forefront fighting for every single underdog in every single arena, and some of them are totally inappropriate. But we're totally passionate. Atzeres, the reason why the Yom Tov is called Atzeres means to hold back. Atzeres, everyone asks the question, why is the Yom Tov called Atzeres? So the Kotzker says, because we had to accept the Torah and be willing to hold back and restrain, that's why I'm using that word restrain from the previous thing we talked about, our passions, and only guide them where the Torah wants us to have passion. That's hard, because the Jews are passionate about everything. Politics, you name it, everything. And we get on the right side or the wrong side. And the Torah is going to say, it's important to have passion, but let's learn how to direct it. What are you directing your passion for? Right? The Jews could be in the forefront of every single movement. You name it, we're there. We're the forefront of every movement. Where do you put that passion? Where do you apply it? And where do you restrain it? That's Atzeres that you have to hold back. That's how the Kotzker sort of an interesting point. Okay, so that is just, we segued into Shuas. Now, Two things I'm gonna mention to you. Did we talk about last week? I think we did. The different ways you can make a decision. Logical and no, we didn't do that. Well, if it took you so long to remember, then I can say it again anyway, right? Okay. There's this famous joke about this rabbi that gets up to darshan before Rosh Hashanah, and he turns to some of the people and says, "Do you remember this drush that I said? What did I say last year?" And they said, he goes, "Oh, if you remember it, forget about it. I'm going to go down." Then he goes up next year and he asks him again, "Do you remember what I said?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, if you don't remember it, I'm not saying it either. Forget about it. Sits down." And then the next year he gets up and he asks him, "Do you remember what I said?" The previous year he goes, "Well, half said yes, half said no." He said, "Okay, the guys that know it, say it to the guys that don't know," and he sat down again. All right? Okay. But if you don't know, we're gonna go for it again. All right. Very important. When the Jews said Nasif and Ishma, so that was their finest hour. We'll do it and then we'll understand it. That's their finest hour. But if you think about it, the Jews pride themselves of being intellectual, intelligent people. The intelligent thing is not to do what Nancy Pelosi said, which is, we'll sign the health care first and we'll read it later. No, that's not, right? No, you read it first and then you sign it. Well, how did you say, Nasa, we'll do it first, we'll sign up first and we'll read it later, right? Why are they doing that? That's not the intelligent thing to do. You read it first, then you sign up. You don't sign up, then read it. What's going on?
Abraham. That's the lesson from Abraham, faith.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to say it a little different, okay? Okay, I hear your point. Okay. We also know that the dibros, the letters on the luchos, were engraved, right? And so the letters actually went through, so you could see them from one end of the stone to the other end of the stone, right? Okay. Now, if you remember, maybe from Medrash, so that is a bit of a problem, because two letters have a difficulty with that. What are the two letters? You know what the two letters are? Which two letters are going to be a problem? The samach and the end mem. Why? Because you draw that samach as a circle. If you etch it all the way through, that little piece is going to fall out, right? If it cuts through. So Hashem had to make a miracle that little piece hovered in the air. And by the end mem also, right? The question, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not make miracles frivolously. What was the point of writing in stone, through and through, and then having this miracle? What's the point? Hashem doesn't do miracles stam, for no reason. What's the lesson? Okay. When you have to make a decision, so there are two ways you can make a decision. One way is the way that we're familiar with. It's a very slow, methodical process. You say, okay, should I buy this house? Should I buy this house? Do I take this job? Not this job. Marry this person? Not marry this person. So in your mind, or maybe on a piece of paper, you plot out all the pros and cons. Why should? Why shouldn't? Should and should. And if the pros outweigh the cons, you buy the house. The cons went right, but you take the job. You marry that person. Whatever the case is, you go pros and cons. Every decision making. Okay. There's another way to make a decision, which is not that slow methodical approach, but you intuit. I think that's the right thing for me to do. You just intuit this is the right thing for you to do. If I asked you, which one is the higher level logic, what would you say? First one, clearly, right? Clearly. When you work it through, the logic. The Zohar actually calls the second approach the Ratzon Elyon or the Seichel Elyon, the higher level wisdom, and he calls the first approach the lower level wisdom. That's kind of strange. What does that mean? I'll tell you a little secret, actually. It's not so secret. Even when you think you're making a logical decision, you know what's happening probably more than half the time? You intuit a certain thing you want to do. You stack the deck of the pros and cons of the way that you intuit anyway. So you kind of sabotage the pros and cons. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, you throw some pros on there that not pretty weak arguments, or you ignore some cons, and you somehow justify, oh, you see, it works out, right? But that's where you wanted to go. Actually, your intuition is guiding you, even when you think you're making a logical decision, it's really being guided by intuition. So what does that mean? And why is the Zohar called this the Rutz of Elyon? Okay. So if I want to reach for my watch, I do this. Now, what didn't happen was my hand say to my brain, I'm not doing this. My brain says, you better do it. My hand says, no. My brain says, we have this fight. And finally, my brain wins it. I grab the watch. It doesn't happen. Because my hand and my brain are working in sync. Right? Not independent of each other. My hand is not independent of my brain. They're working in sync. Well, in the good old days, that means Adam Arishon before he sinned, that's exactly how the Guf and the Neshama operated too. The Neshama knew what the Ratzon of Hashem was, and the Guf complied. The Neshama said, let's do this, and the Guf went along. But as soon as Adam Rishon sinned, he now created a certain independence outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and now his Guf and his Neshama are two independent forces. And whereas before his body was able to hear what the neshama wanted, now the body has its own white noise, so to speak. You can't hear your neshama speaking. What people call their inner voice or their moral conscience, you very often cannot hear it because the body and the desires of the body drown out what the neshama wants to say. Okay? At Har Sinai, we mentioned this last week for different reasons, or 2 weeks ago actually. Ilo karveno fnei Har Sinai, the famous question that rabbis ask all the time, you get sick of the question. In the Dayenu song, what does it mean to say, had you brought us Har Sinai and not given us a Torah, that would have been enough? No, what's the point of schlepping us Har Sinai if you're not giving us a Torah? So we explain, the Sasa says this, others say this, that at Har Sinai represents a level of Paska Zumas Nachash, the Zohar calls it, where the poison in the snake was expelled from us. The snake of Adam Rishon that caused the sin was expelled. We no longer had internal conflict. It used to be the Nachash was an external enticer. After the sin, it'd be internalized. Now we have internal conflict. At Har Sinai, Hashem expelled that inner evil, inner conflict, and we were like Adam prior to sin. If we're like Adam prior to sin, that means that our neshama could dictate to our guf, and our guf goes along with it. That is the higher level of ratzon. What the Zohar is referring to higher level of ratzon is when you're able to hear what your neshama wants. That's the higher level intellect. And at Har Sinai, when the Jews said Naaseh v'nishma, it wasn't out of a lack of intelligence. They were employing the higher level of intelligence because they could hear what the neshama wanted, so they could do automatically. They did what the neshama told them was the right thing to do. They intuited the right thing. And that's what it means, with the idea behind the luchos, having those letters engraved and etched in stone that goes from one end to the next. What is that supposed to mean? We'll do a little IQ test. You ready for an IQ test? Yeah? Okay. Guf is to neshama, body is to soul, like the luchos, the stone of the luchos is to the letters or the writing. Why? A body is lifeless until you have a neshama that gives it life. Stone is lifeless until you write on it. Now the stone comes alive, right? So the stone represents the guf, and the lettering represents the neshama. Now you tell me, what is the symbolism now behind the fact that the lettering went through the stone through and through? It represents the body not presenting a barrier to the neshama, but the neshama being able to go right through the guf. Right? We said that idea, the guf not providing a barrier or white noise or blocking the voice of the unconscious, that's what that mirror image, the symbolism behind this miracle of the letters running through is not stab frivolous nays. Hashem is describing and showing where the klais are holding at that time. That just like the letters went through the stone, means the neshama goes through the guf. It means the guf at this point was not a barrier. We could hear what a neshama wanted, or we could say Naaseh v'nishma. It's an incredible idea, and that's a seichel elyon. How does that apply to us today? I really believe that there are moments in every person's life called a Sinai moment, which is there are times in your life where HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses you for whatever reason, where your guf doesn't block out your neshama, and you're able to hear your neshama speak to you. You know, often in life we don't know should we trust our intuition. If we're cerebral people, how can you trust intuition? Now there's a difference, by the way, and don't ask me how to figure this out. You have to figure this out yourself. Between intuition and impulse. Impulse is a guf, physical thing. Impulsive, your body wants something. That's impulsive. That's not intuition. There's a big difference, and sometimes we get confused between the two. Being impulsive and being intuitive are not the same thing at all. But there are times in our lives when we intuit this is the right thing for us to do, especially when it comes to our path in Judaism. And sometimes we'll hesitate. Maybe I shouldn't go there because I don't get it logically yet. Don't dismiss that intuition. When you're able to hear that inner voice that says, this is the right thing for me, that means you're really, for some reason, getting blessed with hearing your neshama speak. And rather than being dismissive of that, saying, I don't have the logic, I don't have the ability, I need logic, I can't do it without logic, it's not an embarrassing thing, it's a seichel elyon, it's the higher level wisdom to be able to listen to that Rasul Hashem. You with me so far? Okay, so that's Naaseh v'nishma on that level. What it means is the Jews were able to intuit from the neshama. That was the Sinai moment. But I believe in people's lives we have those Sinai moments occurring every once in a while. We can mamish hear what our neshama speaking to us. Then we should listen to that neshama. Don't discard that and say, "What's not logical?" That's the seichel elyon. I'll end with one thought. Okay, actually, one quick things like this. That we know that Shavuos is a Rosh Hashanah Lilanos. So it's considered the Rosh Hashanah or the Yom Adin for trees. Now, in what way is it Rosh Hashanah Levis? We also know that on Rosh Hashanah, on Shavuos, they brought the wheat, right, as a lachem parah. They brought that, right, as they brought it as the because it was the Rosh Hashanah Lilanis, and so we bring tefillah to celebrate the fact that it's a new year for the new crop. But the truth of the matter is, if it's a Rosh Hashanah Lilanis, we should be bringing fruit, not wheat. Why are we bringing wheat on Rosh Hashanah? If it's Rosh Hashanah Lilanis, we should bring fruit. The answer is, the truth is, that you probably know this, that the original fruit, the Eitz Hadas, what was the original fruit? It was chita. According to one medrash, it was actually wheat. In fact, the wheat developed. But after the sin, the wheat now is no longer growing from the tree. You have to work it from the ground. The difference between a peri, the difference between a fruit and tefua, wheat, is the Gemara is like this. What is machal yakarna? When you harvest wheat, that's it. You have to plant all over again the following year. Fruit keeps producing every single year, right? So in truth, the wheat that we bring on Shavuos represents the original wheat that was once considered a fruit. What does that mean? That really an Adam is supposed to mirror image a tree. A tree constantly produces fruit. And we're supposed to be like that Elon, Eitz HaSadah, that constantly is producing, right? We're supposed to be producers. Unfortunately, we live in a commercial world where they're training us to be consumers, right? We're all consumers. You're supposed to be a producer, not a consumer. We think life's all about my kids, heaven is going shopping. That's it. That's heaven. Consume. That's all. Right? And today, it's crazy. You can go on this computer and you could shop all day on Amazon. All day. There's not a single day I don't trip over a box in front of my house. Every day something's coming out. I have no idea. Every single day. We just consume. We're supposed to be producers, not consumers. The tree represents our ability to produce fruit. And on Shavuos is the Yom Hadin of the original fruit, which the wheat was supposed to be. And one day will be again. You know, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. Look at the languages. It's fascinating. If I were to say a fruit-bearing tree in English, I say a fruit-bearing tree, right?